the making.
Now this one is messy, like extra messy. So let's start here. Young Miami just got caught being real shady on social media. And when I say shady, I mean palms out, sunglasses on, sipping some Ciroc in the dark shady. The tea? Somebody commented under her video and said, "Yes, queen, let the people know you're busy enjoying your life and not playing victim on the stand. We love you." And what did Miami do? She liked it. Now let me remind y'all, Cassie, the same Cassie who was with Diddy for over a decade, spent 4 whole days on the stand talking about the disturbing things she allegedly went through. We're talking abuse, control, humiliation, and those infamous freak-off parties that have now become internet legend. The same Cassie who stood in that courtroom exposed years of trauma and became one of the first big-name women to break the silence on what was allegedly going down behind Diddy's doors. And here comes Young Miami, liking a comment that basically downplays Cassie's experience and calls her a victim playing on the stand. But people immediately clapped back, saying that Cassie had been doing everything but pretending to be a victim. In case you missed it, Cassie took the stand despite being pretty much pregnant and ready to go into labor anytime soon, which why it's understandable that not everyone was happy at what Miami did. And while it was not confirmed if she was being shady, but everyone was still bothered because there's a possibility that she is.
For anybody to sit here and blame the women of this case, like, you literally just cannot stand women. You hate them because this case has been years in the making. Because that's the only reasonable, to me, explanation as to why people feel comfortable calling Cassie a liar. You know, why they feel comfortable thinking that she woke up on a random weekday morning and was like, "I'm gonna ruin Sean Diddy Combs' life," and create all these insanely graphic and terrible details.
Now, Cassie has been peeling back the curtain on what really went down during her 11-year relationship with Sean Diddy Combs. And y'all, it's not just messy, it's horrifying. In her testimony, Cassie laid out allegations that have shaken the culture to its core. She says Diddy didn't just control her career, he controlled her life. From the outside, she looked like the lucky protege who landed a top-tier label deal and a front-row seat to hip-hop royalty. But on the inside, she says it was a nightmare dressed in designer, and everything started because she just wanted to chase her dreams.
Cassie described the Freakoffs exactly how the feds alleged in the indictment. Cassie basically said that at first she was a willing participant because she wanted to make Diddy happy. She said over time it became abuse, but she did not know how to tell Diddy no, so she continued to do it. Diddy would make the men relieve themselves inside of her mouth. It would be Diddy and the men also pleasuring her all at the same time. Cassie also stated that during these services or during these acts, she would be literally vomiting, and this was nothing that people could ever think that this is what she wanted to do. She did not want to participate in any of this. He would even make her do it during the time of the month, and she said she would feel uncomfortable. She said that it would take her days to recover from everything that she was doing, and her music wasn't going anywhere. And she said over time, she just continued to do it because she just wanted to feel emotionless, because she didn't know a way out, and she knew that at the end of the day, her music wasn't going anywhere, and she felt like if she just kept doing it, she wouldn't feel anything anymore.
During the trial, Cassie says she signed a massive 10-album deal with Bad Boy Records, and you'd think that would kickstart her career into orbit. But only one album ever came out, her self-titled debut in 2006. After that, her time, energy, and body were allegedly consumed by something entirely different. She told the court that Freakoffs, those now infamous drug-fueled sessions involving male escorts, became so frequent, so emotionally and physically draining, that they felt like a job she never applied for. According to her sworn testimony, it started when she was just 22. Diddy allegedly introduced the idea of her having sex with other men while he watched. She said her stomach churned, and she felt confused, scared, but also deeply in love with him. That's a dangerous combination. Love, power, and fear? That's a trap disguised as devotion. Cassie says these freak-offs weren't casual one-offs. They weren't kinky, consensual explorations like Diddy's legal team is trying to paint them. According to her, they were long, grueling, drug-fueled ordeals that could last for hours, or even days. She recalled the longest one lasting 4 days straight, with no sleep, just stimulants and trauma. Diddy, she claimed, would often record the sessions, watch them back, and use the footage to control her. blackmail, manipulation, disassociation. This wasn't a relationship. It was a prison with marble floors and Maybachs. And that's just the beginning. Cassie also described how the physical violence escalated over time. She said Diddy gave her black eyes, bruises, and once threw her into a bed frame so hard she split her eyebrow open. Instead of a hospital, his security took her to a private plastic surgeon in Beverly Hills. Just imagine how normal this kind of brutality had to be for that to feel like the logical next step. And then there's the Skillet story. Dawn Richard, former Danity Kane member and someone who lived inside Diddy's empire, testified that she witnessed Diddy physically assaulting Cassie. She said he once hit her over the head with a skillet of eggs, dragged her upstairs, and punched her while glass shattered around them.
In 2009, Dawn said she witnessed Diddy attack Cassie over eggs at his house. Diddy allegedly struck her with a skillet of eggs, kicked her, and dragged her upstairs. The next day, he locked Dawn and another woman in the studio, downplayed the violence as passion, and warned them that people that say something can turn up missing.
And when asked why she didn't call the police, Dawn simply said, "I was scared. Scared of Diddy. Scared of what he might do. Scared of what he could do." That fear wasn't just paranoia. It was survival. Because according to Cassie, Diddy's controlling behavior wasn't just about abuse. It was about ownership. He allegedly made her feel like she couldn't say no to anything, not to sex, not to drugs, not even to violence, because if she refused, those blackmail tapes could ruin her. She was trapped in a cycle of submission, shame, and silence. And yet, even with all this chilling testimony, there are still people out here saying Cassie's lying. Yep, social media has been split right down the middle. While many are praising her for finally speaking her truth and cracking open decades of industry silence, others are calling her bitter, vengeful, and opportunistic. They say, she stayed for 11 years. She must have liked it. Or worse, she was just mad she got replaced. Let's be real. That's victim blaming 101. And it's wild how fast people forget the psychological chains that keep victims from walking away. Cassie was a 22-year-old artist with a massive deal signed to her abuser. Her money, her future, her identity, all tied to him. That's not love. That's coercion. And to call her a liar now after all this testimony, people pointed out that it is not skepticism but complicity. And sure, Diddy's legal team is trying hard to spin it. They're claiming she was a willing participant in a swingers lifestyle, that she liked the Freakoffs and that she was free to leave anytime. But if that's true, if it was all consensual, why was their footage being recorded for leverage? And let's not forget about the presence of drugs and all the nasty things, right? Of course, this isn't just Cassie. Other women have come forward. Former employees, witnesses, even government agencies have taken this seriously. Homeland Security raided both of Diddy's homes. They didn't just show up because of gossip. They showed up because multiple victims across multiple states painted the same picture: trafficking, coercion, and control. Which is why people were shocked when Miami decided to like such comments. It's not very women supportive, right? So when people act like Cassie is just trying to ruin a successful black man, ask yourself, why now? Why speak up years after the fact? Risk public shame, risk retaliation, risk everything. Because that's what survivors do. They risk it all to finally get free.
And for all of you people who didn't want to believe Cassie, you wanted to run and jump to the internet and make up all the reasons why she's lying and she wanted attention and these things didn't really happen and she was trying to bring a black man down because he's making money and everyone's got an agenda, and you had to watch the video of him dragging her around and kicking her to the floor and throwing vases at her and acting like an absolute animal, and feel that pit in your stomach to finally realize maybe you should have shut your mouth in the first place. I hope you have a word with yourself.
And that's why it's so disturbing to see people in Diddy's orbit throwing shade. Because instead of saying, "I didn't see that side of him," or "my experience was different," some are straight up mocking her, liking comments that call her a fake victim, acting like all of this is just for show. But guess what? The courtroom ain't social media. You can't shade your way out of a federal indictment. And when survivors speak, the world should listen. So whether you believe Cassie or not, here's the hard truth. The justice system does. And the evidence is piling up. That brings us back to Young Miami's questionable move. Of course, the internet went up in flames. Fans were like, "Miami, this ain't it. One person said, "She's corny for liking that comment after hearing what those women been through." Another said, "God don't like ugly. That girl was messing with sex workers and loving it. Of course she ain't playing victim, she wasn't forced into anything." And y'all, it just kept going. But before we go too far down that road, let's talk about why people think Young Miami even has this much smoke for Cassie to begin with. So here's where it gets spicy. Back before Cassie dropped that bombshell lawsuit in late 2023, Young Miami was living the dream. Like, luxury level dream. She was publicly booed up with Diddy, getting private jets, podcast deals, diamonds, Chanel, the works. Sis was the city girl turned city queen. And while she never officially claimed Diddy as her man, you couldn't convince the internet that she wasn't in love. People close to her even said she caught feelings. Hard. Diddy was her first billionaire. And according to the streets, once you get with a billionaire, it's hard to go back. But then Cassie dropped that lawsuit, and the dream crumbled. Miami had to distance herself. She started tweeting cryptic things. The podcast cooled off. The photo ops stopped. She had to leave that relationship behind, at least in public, and whether she wanted to or not. Let's not sugarcoat it. Young Miami was ride or die for Diddy. Through the lavish gifts, the jet setting, the diamond showers, she stood beside him. Even when people called her a side chick, even when the internet clowned her for calling a 50-something-year-old mogul Poppy, she didn't blink. It was all vibes, all love, until it wasn't. So just imagine how she reacted when the mess exploded. Well, she allegedly to choose, protect the brand or protect herself. The signs were all there. First, she went silent. Her once buzzing Caresha Please podcast, a flagship of Diddy's Revolt TV, by the way, suddenly stopped trending. Then she hit Twitter with vague messages, the type that read like texts you send your best friend at 3 a.m. Protect your peace. Move in silence. Everything ain't for the internet. To the untrained eye, just another celebrity being dramatic. But to those paying attention, those were warning flares. Miami was trying to slip out the back door without getting singed by the firestorm. And when she finally did speak, on the premiere of Season 2 of Caresha Please, she made it clear. The fairy tale was over. Diddy was no longer her man in any real way. With the weight of the allegations crashing down, Young Miami kept it short but firm. That wasn't my experience. Now hold up. Let's unpack that. Because what she didn't say might be just as important as what she did. She said, "I can't speak on something that I don't know. I wasn't around at the time."
About him, you didn't experience that as in dating. That's not something that you saw. So is that the reason why you never said anything? Is that the reason why when all of these allegations and lawsuits came apart, like, why didn't you speak?
Because I can't speak on something that wasn't my experience. And I can't speak on something that I don't know. I can't speak on these allegations because I wasn't around at the time. I don't know that person and that wasn't my experience.
So with you being, I feel like, a survivor of domestic violence.
That's a clean, surgical cut from all responsibility. She made it crystal clear that whatever was going down in Diddy's orbit, whatever happened with Cassie, the raids, the sealed affidavits, she wasn't part of it. She wasn't in the room. She didn't press record. She's not the girl in those stories. But even more interesting, she added, "I don't know that person." Let that sit for a second. I don't know that person. That's not just a distancing. That's a disassociation. That's a woman saying the man she thought she knew, the man who courted her with flowers and yachts and Birkin bags, may not even be real. And that realization, that had to cut deep. Of course, y'all need to consider that Miami also has a lot to lost. Behind the glam, Miami's a mom, a brand, a business. And she said it plain, "I didn't bring us this far to go backwards." Basically, she's not sacrificing her reputation or her kids' future because of a man who's now drowning in federal investigations. So she stepped back, took a break, refocused. When all these things came out, she said, "I just needed to take a break and focus on what's important."
You an icon. You a motherfucking mogul.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, put God first. Make sure you keep God with everything that you do. But I just felt like when all of these things came out, I just needed to take a break and focus on what's important. It was just me and my career and my family, and just, you know, let him navigate and figure that out on his own, because I can't be caught up in that.
Although he was so great to you and you didn't experience that, you still feel like just with everything that's transpiring, in order for you to soar or to keep elevating, you need to disassociate yourself.
It's not in order for me to keep soaring or, you know, to elevate myself. I just feel like, although that wasn't my experience, and he was such a good person to me, and that's what people don't understand about like me and Puff relationship. They was just like, you was so loud and you made him a part of your brand. And
That's code for, I'm not about to go down with this ship. And look, say what you want about Young Miami, but she played this smarter than people expected. She didn't blow up online. She didn't cry on Instagram Live. She didn't even drag Diddy, which she honestly could have done and scored major sympathy points. Instead, she took the mature route. Let him navigate and figure that out on his own, as she put it. She knows the industry. She knows how fast they'll drop a woman who's too loud, too messy. As a result, she pivoted. Back to the music, back to her kids, and back to the bag. Still, let's not ignore the elephant in the room. Why did she need to be this careful? Because no matter how rich or famous you are, proximity to a scandal like this will stain your image. Diddy went from being a mogul to a man under investigation for trafficking. And in the court of public opinion, guilt spreads like wildfire. Even if you weren't involved, just being seen with the accused can burn your credibility to the ground. So Young Miami had to pull back not just emotionally, but strategically. She couldn't afford to be known as the woman who stood by Diddy through the chaos. She had to become the woman who walked away before the whole house came down. Now, is she done with him for good? Hard to say. Hollywood has a short memory. Relationships reappear like deleted tweets. But right now, Koresha's not just reclaiming her time, she's reclaiming her narrative. And if there's one thing we know for sure, it's this. Young Miami ain't trying to be the next cautionary tale. She saw the signs, she read the room, and when the fire started spreading, she got the hell out. But now, people are asking, why is she shading Cassie? Well, imagine being Young Miami. You never had to do any freak-offs. You got treated like a queen. Not to mention, she got investments, a platform, a career boost. Diddy gave her a talk show for free. And then here comes Cassie, calling him a monster and flipping the whole narrative upside down. From Miami's perspective, Cassie ruined everything. And y'all, I can actually see how Miami might be salty. Not saying it's right, but I understand it. Because if Cassie's truth ended the fairy tale that Miami was living in, yeah, feelings might be hurt. But here's the thing, just because you weren't accused doesn't mean someone else wasn't. And that's the part where Miami starts losing the public, because this isn't just drama, this is courtroom confessions. People on the stand, former staff, employees, assistants, they're all saying the same thing, that Diddy is allegedly dangerous, controlling, and vindictive. Even people who used to love him are saying he's not a good person, so fans are wondering why Miami did not talk or address the mess. While she has all the rights to stay away, it's pretty impossible to stay quiet, especially if another woman is getting treated like nothing, right? And with the scale of the lawsuit and evidence collected, it's understandable that fans are not convinced Miami did not know anything. So when she liked that comment alleging the Cassie was just playing a victim, everyone raised their eyebrows. I mean, this lawsuit didn't just shake the industry, it was the beginning of an avalanche. After Cassie settled quickly, more lawsuits began pouring in. Former staff, assistants, and unnamed women filed their own legal claims. Several alleged Diddy was involved in a long-standing pattern of sex trafficking, abuse, and coercion. And then came the bombshell. Federal agents raiding Diddy's homes in both Miami and Los Angeles. Homeland Security rolled up with helicopters. They weren't playing. They confiscated electronics, hard drives, security footage, allegedly as part of a broader investigation into sex trafficking. And according to several outlets, investigators are looking into a multi-state network of abuse, with Diddy at the center. That's what makes Miami's shady little like so tone-deaf. Because this ain't just rumors, it's now a federal case. Homeland Security doesn't show up over gossip. And let's not forget about Kim Porter, the late mother of 3 of Diddy's children. Kim died in 2018 under mysterious circumstances, reportedly from pneumonia. But to this day, people close to her say she feared Diddy. Friends have come forward saying she was planning to write a tell-all book. She allegedly had photos, recordings, and evidence of Diddy's behavior. Some even believe she was preparing to distance herself from him right before she died. Now let's be clear, there is no confirmed foul play in Kim's death. But the timing, the whispers, the way Diddy reacted, it's all made people side-eye him even harder. Kim and Cassie weren't just exes, they were women who allegedly suffered in silence while Diddy built his empire. And now, finally, the silence is being broken. So why is Young Miami acting like she's above it? Well, some people online think Miami is just jealous. Yep, jealous. Think about it. Cassie was with Diddy for 10+ years and came out with some bags, sure, but nowhere near the type of platform Miami got. Miami rolled in, stayed a couple years, and walked out with a whole career. She played the game better. She knew how to talk, how to flip clout into cash, and how to keep her dignity, at least publicly. And when Cassie saw all that, some folks are saying that was her breaking point. One person online said, Cassie saw Young Miami getting $250,000 a month and barely having to show up while she was humiliated for over a decade. Of course she was mad. And I'm not going to lie. That theory makes sense, because y'all, Cassie was a full-blown artist, a dancer, a performer, and she still got reduced to being the silent girlfriend. Meanwhile, Miami just pulled up, talked her talk, and became a brand. So yeah, that could hurt. But here's where I have to pause and say this. Cassie didn't come out just because of Miami. This was bigger. This was about justice, survival, maybe even revenge, yes, but also accountability. And anyone who's watched that courtroom testimony knows Cassie didn't do this lightly. She looked exhausted, broken, but brave. So when Miami comes in, liking shady comments, acting like Cassie is just doing it for clout, baby, that's not the look. Especially when real victims are risking their lives to speak out. And let's not forget, Young Miami's name hasn't come up in any freak-off allegations. She hasn't been accused of anything like what Cassie or the other women claimed happened. So why insert yourself? Why throw shade at someone whose experience was clearly different from yours? The internet wants answers. Some are saying she's trying to protect her own image. Others say she's just mad because she lost her billionaire. But what everyone agrees on? That comment was tone deaf. It came off cold, and it made her look insensitive at best. Now, to be fair, we don't know everything that happened behind the scenes. Maybe Young Miami really didn't see that dark side of Diddy. Maybe he treated her like a queen while treating others like trash. Abuse doesn't always look the same for every victim or partner. And sometimes that's what makes it so hard to speak up, because the abuser is two different people, sweet to one and cruel to another. But still, just because it wasn't your truth doesn't mean it wasn't someone else's. And while we're here, can we talk about how a lot of women are taught to keep quiet just to protect the bag? That's exactly why so many folks are praising Cassie, because she gave up the mansion, the designer, the comfortable silence, and she chose to speak. Meanwhile, people are accusing Young Miami of doing the opposite, protecting the man, shading the victim, and keeping her brand above the truth. And y'all know what they say, when you stand for nothing, you fall for anything. At the end of the day, this situation is exposing more than just Diddy. It's showing us how the industry protects power, how women are pitted against each other, and how silence gets rewarded while truth gets punished. And don't think this story is done. More people are talking and more lawsuits might be on the way. Which also means that more footage, more receipts, and even tapes are going to be revealed in the long run. And the feds are still circling. If even half of what's been alleged is true, we're looking at one of the biggest celebrity takedowns in history. So now I want to know what y'all think. Was Young Miami out of line for liking that comment, or is she just defending her own experience? Do you think she's still in love with Diddy? Is this all just jealousy, or is there something deeper? One thing's for sure, this drama is far from over. Drop your thoughts in the comments because y'all already know. We're going to talk about it. That's all I got for now. Stay safe, stay shady, and I'll catch y'all in the next one.